everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to share my opinion with you about some things related to Moldova in relation to the current situation in Ukraine. And this news comes from antiwar.com. Says EU to significantly increase military aid to Moldova after Transnistria blasts. The European Council President said that the bloc plans to significantly increase military aid to Moldova, and the main thing is they want to supply, Moldova with additional military equipment. So they will increase the support in the field of logistics, cyber defense, more military building capacities, and all this is done based on the excuse of the recent incidents, attacks on the territory of Transnistria. Excuse me. So Transnistria is this semi-independent region in the border of Moldova and Ukraine. This is famously occupied by some Russian troops that act as peacekeepers because there was an armed conflict between this region and Moldova back right after the break away from the Soviet Union. So these Russian troops were deployed there to guard this region, and also an arsenal of weapons and munitions that is in this region. So like I was saying before, this is not conducing to peace. I see all these actions by the European Union as something very irresponsible, and I just wanted to bring your attention to some other things here. For example, Moldova is not part of NATO, but then they apply to join the EU after the invasion of Russia. Something here is kind of interesting. This is what I wanted to mention. Also, Ukraine wanted to join the EU. This was kind of the reason for all the government that was opposed to joining the EU in 2014. That was kind of the pretext for all the protests and all the Maidan movement that led up to the coup d'etat that was in this country, instigated by the EU and the United States. The removal of the legally elected government of Ukraine at the moment. Viktor Yanukovych was the president in that time. So what I wanted to mention is that he saw that at that moment the EU kind of submitted what were the conditions to join the EU, and Viktor Yanukovych thought that these conditions were not very positive for the economy of Ukraine, so he decided that it was better to not join the EU, but rather stay independent and probably align a little bit more with Russia, because Russia had no preconditions to do trading with Ukraine at the moment, and that's how everything happened. So what I wanted to mention is this part that is probably overlooked. that Moldova applied to join the EU, and Ukraine also recently applied formally to join the EU. And let's take a look at this document, or this kind of part of the things that are considered the criteria to join the EU, which is called the Copenhagen criteria. And in summary, to join the European Union, the criteria is that a state has the institution to preserve democratic governance and human rights, has a functioning market economy, and accept the obligations and intent of the EU. And other things is that candidate country has achieved stability of institutions, guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, human rights, respect and protection of minorities, existence of a functioning market economy, as well as the capacity to cope with competitive pressure and market forces within the union. So take a look at this part, and then we will mention how this doesn't apply at all to Moldova. Moldova is famously the poorest country in Europe, so this definitively doesn't apply to Moldova. The economy of Moldova is very small. They are absolutely non-competitive, so if they will join the European Union, they will be destroyed. All small businesses, medium-sized businesses in Moldova will be absolutely devastated. They cannot compete. So why they wanted to join is absolutely nonsensical. In my opinion, it's just probably a political move. And as far as respect and protection of minorities, we will talk about later. Stability of institution, guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, human rights. This also applies to Ukraine. The economy of Ukraine, even though is much larger than the economy of Moldova, is definitively not going in the right direction. The country's economy has really going down a lot since the independence of Ukraine from the Soviet Union. So all these kind of political aims, don't benefit the people. I have many friends in Ukraine, and they have never told me that since these last governments that came after Yanukovych, things haven't improved. They have not improved at all economically, not at all. So why will any responsible, caring president want his country to be smashed, destroyed by joining the European Union? They're not ready for this. Absolutely not ready. And people don't realize this. They just think, oh, it's so cool to be part of the European Union. It's not, this is 2021 country reports on human rights practices for Moldova. So this is the latest. And let's take a look at here. This is only a section of the document. You can read the entire document, which is very extensive if you're inclined to do it. But basically here says there are significant human rights issues, including credible reports of torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment by authorities, harsh and life-threatening prison conditions, serious problems with the independence of the judiciary, arbitrary or unlawful interference with privacy, serious restrictions on free expression and media, and the list goes on and on and on. Is horrible, really. But let's take a look at the section. This is also a 2021 report on Ukraine, so people understand how things are. This is almost like a copy of the report on Moldova. Exactly, but let's go on this. Unlawful or arbitrary killings, including extrajudicial killings by the government or its agents, torture and cases of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment of detainees by law enforcement personnel, and is the same basically. Physical abuses, punishment of civilians, serious restriction on free expression and media, including violence or threats of violence against journalists, unjustified arrest or prosecution of journalists, censorship, serious restriction on internet freedom, refoulement of refugees to a country where they will face a threat to their life or freedom, serious acts of government corruption, lack of investigation, crimes, violence is the government generally failed to take adequate steps to prosecute or punish most officials who committed abuses, resulting in a climate of impunity. The government took some steps to identify, prosecute, and punish officials involved in corruption. So that's what it is. It's yes, not ideal countries, so very corrupt countries, both Moldova and Ukraine. And I know this because I'm Mexican, and my country is also nothing sort of a ideal country. It has very similar um, conditions as the ones that are mentioned there in Ukraine, including the same things like they mention: unlawful, arbitrary killings by police, military, forced disappearance, torture. The list goes on and on, and there is no rule of law. Impunity is rampant in Mexico, and there is the corruption that comes from criminal organizations in Mexico, which is not relevant, for example, for Ukraine and Moldova. They don't have this problem, so this is also definitely horrible. So, what I wanted to make is some kind of a contrast and kind of bring people to reality, to understand why these countries don't qualify. Moldova, Ukraine, they don't qualify to join the European Union. And the fact that the European Union even accepted the applications signals that this is just a political move, has nothing to do with the welfare of all the citizens of the European Union, which should be kind of the primordial goal. Is supposed to improve the conditions, the living conditions of everyone. And if the whole of the European Union is going to suffer by including countries like Moldova and Ukraine, I don't think it's positive for anybody. These countries need to solve these issues on their own before joining this kind of bloc, and not just for the sake of politics. That's kind of my opinion. And just dropping, pushing so much military equipment into Ukraine and now into Moldova is not going to contribute to de-escalating the situation. It's going to make it even worse. So yes, this is my opinion. Peace is the solution, not more war. So anyway, um, that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about this, and as always I ask you to please leave a comment, like the video, share in social media, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.